You begin in a world lit by candles, ruled by kings and taxed without mercy. It's the mid-1700s, and you live in one of 13 scrappy British colonies, clinging to the edge of a continent. Life is muddy, buggy, and every other conversation seems to be about tea or the taxes on it. Tensions simmer for years. The British Crown keeps taxing, and the colonists keep pushing back, pamphlets, boycotts, and the occasional rebellious tea party, yes, the kind where crates go overboard, not where people gossip over scones. Eventually, resistance turns to revolution. The American Revolution kicks off in 1775, and it's no guaranteed win. Britain has the world's most powerful military. The colonies? A bunch of farmers, merchants, and idealists with flintlocks and a lot of attitude. But under George Washington's patient command, and with a timely assist from France, the colonies hold out long enough to score a miracle victory. By 1783, the Treaty of Paris is signed. America is independent. Cue fireworks, right? Not quite. The post-war years are chaotic. The first attempt at government, the Articles of Confederation, barely holds the states together, so in 1787, a new constitution is written, and the United States of America becomes official, with a president, a Congress, and a Bill of Rights that makes sure you can say what you want, worship how you like, and never be forced to quarter a soldier in your living room again. George Washington takes office and sets the tone. No kings, no lifelong rulers, no nonsense. The new republic is fragile, experimental, and full of contradictions, especially regarding slavery, but the foundation is laid. A small, restless nation is born, and it's already thinking bigger. Territorial expansion, from sea to shining sea. You hitch a ride on a creaky wagon, boots dusty, eyes fixed westward. The year is 1803, and the Louisiana Purchase has just doubled the size of your country overnight. For $15 million, Napoleon sells you land he can't really protect. And now the U.S. stretches from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains. Just like that, expansion becomes destiny. You hear the term manifest destiny, a belief that Americans are divinely chosen to spread across the continent. It sounds poetic, but it's also aggressive. Land grabs accelerate. Territories become states. Native nations are pushed aside, forcibly removed or outright erased. The Trail of Tears isn't just a name, it's a march of death for thousands. But back to the conquest. Florida comes from Spain. Texas declares independence from Mexico, then joins the U.S., triggering the Mexican-American War in 1846. 2 years later, you've taken California, the Southwest, and a new coastline on the Pacific. Gold is discovered. The West is wild. And the railroads? They're coming. The Transcontinental Railroad connects coast to coast by 1869. You can now cross a continent in days, instead of months. Telegraph wires buzz. Frontier towns rise. Cattle barons and miners chase dreams and fortunes, sometimes straight into chaos. This is no peaceful expansion. It's fast, relentless, and often bloody. But by mid-century, the U.S. stretches from sea to sea. It's no longer a fringe republic. It's a continental force. You stand on a mountaintop in the Rockies and look out over land that wasn't part of your country just decades earlier. Railways gleam below. Settlers move in waves. Maps are redrawn. And the U.S., still young, still rough around the edges, is just getting started. Civil War and industrial rebirth. You hear it in the wind first, a rumble of conflict, sharp as musket fire and heavy with grief. It's 1861 and the United States is coming apart at the seams. North and South have split, not just over states' rights, but over slavery, an institution baked into the Southern economy and soul. Then it breaks wide open. The Civil War begins. You're thrust into the bloodiest conflict in U.S. history. Over 600,000 dead. Cities reduced to rubble. Brothers fighting brothers. The South fights to preserve its way of life. The North fights to preserve the Union and eventually to end slavery. President Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation in August 1863. It doesn't free all enslaved people immediately, but it shifts the moral ground of the war. By 1865, the Union wins. The Confederacy falls. Lincoln is assassinated. The 13th Amendment abolishes slavery. But healing? That will take generations. Then comes Reconstruction, a messy and often violent effort to rebuild the South and extend rights to newly freed Black Americans. Progress is made, then quickly undone. Jim Crow laws creep in. Segregation becomes the new system. But something else is rising. While the South rebuilds, the North industrializes. Fast. You hear the clang of steel mills in Pittsburgh. You ride railroads that stretch like veins across the land. Cities boom. Immigrants pour in. Factories hum day and night. America is transforming. Less about farms, more about factories. This is the beginning of the industrial economy. Mass production, coal, iron, and rail. The economy shifts into overdrive. From the ashes of civil war, a new kind of power emerges. Not just military or moral, but mechanical. You can feel it in the smoke, see it in the skyscrapers rising, and know the United States is no longer just a nation. It's becoming a machine. Gilded Age capitalism and global ambition. You blink through coal dust and neon signs. It's the late 1800s, and America is shimmering in gold, or at least gold paint. The Gilded Age is here. The country looks rich, but under the surface, it's chaos, inequality, corruption, and ambition so large it could buy a continent. You walk into a booming city, New York, Chicago, Pittsburgh. Skyscrapers scrape the clouds, steam whistles pierce the morning fog. This is the age of Carnegie Steel, Rockefeller, oil, and J.P. Morgan, finance. These captains of industry, or robber barons depending on who you ask, build vast fortunes and even greater monopolies. Meanwhile, workers toil 12-hour shifts in dangerous factories for pennies. Labor unions begin to rise, organizing strikes and protests. Some turn violent, like the Haymarket Affair in 1886. Still, the U.S. economy charges forward, fueled by steel, sweat, and an endless supply of immigrants chasing the American dream. And that dream? It's expanding overseas. The U.S. starts looking beyond its borders. First, it annexes Hawaii in 1898, toppling its monarchy. Then it fights Spain in the Spanish-American War and wins. Suddenly, you hold Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. You've officially entered the age of empire. But empire doesn't come cheap. In the Philippine-American War, the U.S. fights Filipino independence fighters in a brutal, often overlooked conflict. Back home, debates rage. Are you spreading freedom or becoming the very thing you once rebelled against? Still, the message is clear. America isn't just looking inward anymore. It's projecting power, planting flags, building battleships, and testing what it means to lead, not just by example, but by force. The Gilded Age ends with growing pains, but the seed is planted. The U.S. is no longer just a growing economy. It's becoming a global actor. World War I. First steps onto the global stage. You lace up muddy boots in a trench halfway around the world. It's 1917, and after years of sitting on the sidelines, the United States has just entered World War I. The world is on fire. Europe locked in a gruesome stalemate of trenches, barbed wire and mustard gas. You weren't supposed to be here. President Woodrow Wilson ran for re-election on the slogan, "He kept us out of war." But then German U-boats start sinking American ships, and the Zimmermann telegram, a secret German proposal to Mexico, triggers national outrage. The U.S. has no choice but to join. You ship out with 2 million other American soldiers, doughboys, and tip the balance in favor of the Allies. The war ends in 1918. The Treaty of Versailles redraws Europe's borders and lays the groundwork for future problems. Wilson dreams big with his League of Nations, but Congress says no thanks. Isolationism pulls you back home. But the world has changed and so have you. America emerges as a creditor nation. You've loaned billions to Europe. Your factories boomed during the war and your economy is strong. At the Paris Peace Conference, even without joining the League, your influence is unmistakable. For the first time, the U.S. isn't just reacting to global events, it's helping shape them. Back home, the Roaring Twenties arrive. Jazz spills from smoky clubs. Women vote. Radios buzz in every living room. It feels like the future has arrived early. You dance through it, fast, loud, hopeful, but beneath the champagne bubbles, cracks are forming. You don't know it yet, but a crash is coming, and it will shake the very foundations of your rising empire. Still, for now, you stand taller on the world stage, not as an observer, but as a power. Depression, recovery, and way to supremacy. You wake up to silence. The parties are over. It's 1929, and the stock market has crashed. Wall Street collapses, banks close, and suddenly millions of Americans are out of work. The Great Depression isn't just an economic hiccup. It's a full-body breakdown. You stand in breadlines. You hear radios crackling with worry. Dust Bowl winds blow through the Midwest, turning farms into wastelands. Factories shut down. Hope shrinks. For many, the American dream becomes a nightmare. Then comes Franklin D. Roosevelt. His voice calms even through static. His New Deal brings jobs, reforms, and a sense of purpose. You build dams, bridges, national parks. Government grows, but so does optimism. Slowly, painfully, the country begins to heal. And just as things start to look up, war returns. It's 1939. Germany invades Poland. Japan expands in Asia. Another world war brews. The U.S. watches from a distance until Pearl Harbor. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacks and America snaps into action. This time you're not late to the fight, you're essential. Your factories become arsenals. Tanks, planes, bullets, millions produced monthly. Women take over the assembly lines. Rosie the Riveter becomes a symbol of strength. You fight on two fronts, Nazis in Europe, Imperial Japan in the Pacific. D-Day, Iwo Jima, the Manhattan Project. You end the war with a weapon no one's ever seen before, the atomic bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. The world changes in an instant. By 1945, the war is over. The Axis powers are defeated. And the U.S.? It stands alone at the top. Your military is unmatched. Your economy is booming. Your cities are untouched by bombs. You didn't just help win the war. You ended it. And now the world looks to you for leadership, for rebuilding, for peace. You're not just a superpower. You're the superpower. Cold War, two superpowers, one planet. You exhale victory, but it doesn't last long. By 1947, the world is split not between nations, but between ideologies. On one side, capitalism, democracy. Coca-Cola. On the other, communism, state control, long parades with missiles. The U.S. and the Soviet Union are staring each other down. And the Cold War begins. There's no battlefield yet. Just spies, threats, and a terrifying new equation. Mutually assured destruction. You build nuclear arsenals big enough to wipe out the world. And so does Moscow. You watch Europe divide. The Berlin Wall goes up. Eastern Bloc versus Western Bloc. You launch the Marshall Plan, pouring billions into rebuilding Western Europe, not just for aid, but to stop communism from spreading like wildfire. In Asia, Korea splits, North versus South. You fight to a bloody stalemate in the Korean War. Later, you stumble into the jungles of Vietnam and the cost is higher. 58,000 American lives, deep national trauma, and a war that ends in retreat. Meanwhile, you race to the stars. In 1957, the Soviets launched Sputnik. You panic. But then in 1969, you do the impossible. Walk on the moon. Armstrong's boot print isn't just history, it's a flex. Back home, the fight continues, civil rights marches, assassinations, riots. You face your own contradictions, preaching freedom abroad while battling injustice at home. Still, your influence grows. You export culture, Hollywood, blue jeans, rock and roll. Your music plays in Berlin basements and Tokyo dance halls. Your corporations stretch worldwide. And though the Cold War teeters on the edge of disaster more than once, Cuban Missile Crisis. 1962, you hold your nerve. By the 1980s, you outspend, outtech, and outlast the USSR. Then in 1991, the unthinkable happens. The Soviet Union collapses. And you? You stand alone at the top. The Cold War is over. Post-Cold War drift and dilemma. You win the Cold War, but now what? It's 1991 and the Soviet Union is gone. Berlin is reunited. Eastern Europe cheers. For the first time in decades, there's no rival superpower breathing down your neck. You are the sole global superpower. Economically, militarily, culturally, the 1990s feel like victory lap mode. You enjoy a tech boom, low unemployment, and dial-up internet that beeps and screeches its way into your living room. Bill Clinton rides the wave. And terms like globalization and free trade fill your newspapers. The world is integrating fast. The World Trade Organization grows. NAFTA links North America. You hear made in China more and more, but you barely notice. Factories leave, but the stock market climbs. And hey, you've got email now. Then 9/11. The Twin Towers fall. The Pentagon burns. You stare at the screen stunned. Everything freezes. Your response? Immediate. You launch the war on terror. Invade Afghanistan, then Iraq. The world supports you at first. But the war in Iraq stretches on. OMDs are never found and the mission gets murky. You spend trillions. Thousands of soldiers die. Civilians too. The victories are unclear. The consequences? Long-lasting. The trust of your allies dims. Your own people begin to question what it means to lead the world. At home, a new crisis hits, 2008. The housing bubble bursts. Banks collapse. Wall Street panics. You bail out major corporations to prevent complete economic meltdown. The Great Recession spreads globally. But even in the fog, you adapt. You elect your first black president, Barack Obama, a symbol of change and renewal. You withdraw troops, pass healthcare reform, refocus on diplomacy. Yet beneath the surface, something's shifting. You're still powerful but more divided. Still wealthy but more unequal. Still admired but increasingly contested. You've won the Cold War, but now you're drifting in a more complicated world. The next chapter? It's digital, unpredictable, and already unfolding. Digital age and rising rivals. You carry the world in your pocket now. It's the 2010s, and smartphones, social media, and streaming culture have redefined everything. You don't just lead in tanks and trade deals anymore. You lead in likes, memes, and algorithms. The US has become the architect of the digital age. From Silicon Valley to Netflix queues in Nairobi, your companies Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook are global giants. They shape how people shop, vote, talk, and think. American innovation sets the tempo, but the same tools that connect the world also divide it. Disinformation spreads. Trust in institutions cracks. Politics becomes a battleground of hashtags and headlines, and through the glowing screens you feel the tension rising. Meanwhile, in the East, China rises. Its economy surges. Its military modernizes. It launches Belt and Road projects, expanding influence through infrastructure, not invasions. It builds tech to rival yours. Huawei, TikTok, electric vehicles, AI. Some say it's the next superpower. Others say it already is. You watch wary. Trade wars begin. Tariffs fly. Diplomats argue. Tech bans emerge. It's not another Cold War yet, but it's not exactly peace either. Back home, the climate crisis worsens. Fires, floods, and hurricanes become regular guests. You try to act Paris Climate Accord, green energy funding, but progress is uneven. Some cheer electric cars. Others double down on oil. Economically, you're still king, but the crown wobbles. Debt climbs. Inequality deepens. The middle class shrinks, and trust in the American dream phrase. You experience more mass shootings, racial reckonings, election chaos, and a global pandemic that exposes deep cracks in your healthcare, education, and political systems. It's exhausting and revealing. Yet, despite all this, you're still the center of gravity. Your culture dominates. Your dollar leads. Your innovations shape the 21st century. But for how long? The age of easy dominance is over. Now it's a world of rivals, risks, and reinvention. Superpower or stretched empire? You look around and realize the landscape has changed. It's the 2020s. And while you still hold the crown, it feels heavier now. Frayed at the edges, a little dented. Your military budget tops $800 billion. Your economy is still the world's largest. And your culture travels farther than your passports. But something's off. You're no longer the confident giant striding through the post-Cold War world. You're tired, divided, and in some ways uncertain. Politics has become performance. Art. Elections bring more anxiety than celebration. Trust in government, media, and each other? Fading. And yet the world keeps expecting you to lead. A war breaks out in Ukraine, you send weapons, aid, sanctions. Taiwan sits in geopolitical crosshairs, you send ships and strong words. Climate disasters hit poor nations. You're asked for funds, solutions, leadership. Your allies still look to you. Your rivals still calculate around you. But your hands are full at home. Infrastructure crumbles. Schools underfund. Healthcare strains. Social media deepens every divide. You wonder if empire building abroad has come at the cost of maintenance at home. Some call it decline. Others call it transition. Still, you adapt. Your scientists push frontiers, space, medicine, AI. Your artists and entrepreneurs imagine futures no one else dares. Your people argue loudly because they believe change is possible. That's your messy magic. Quirky detail to close on? In 2023, the most watched TikTok trend in the world involved teenagers reenacting scenes from Shakespeare with McDonald's French fries. Somehow that makes sense. So are you still a superpower? Yes, but not in the old way. Not with easy victories and one-sided influence. You're something new now. Still powerful, Still relevant, but evolving. And whether you remain the center of the world or learn to share the stage will depend on what you choose next, because empires don't just rise or fall, they change. And now as the story settles, so do you. You've walked through revolutions and railroads, across deserts and digital clouds. You've seen ambition, tragedy, reinvention, played out over centuries like chapters in a long, complicated novel. The kind you don't rush through, the kind you feel. The noise fades now. The war drums quiet. The campaign slogans lose their edge. All that's left is a country, still standing, still questioning, still breathing. You let go of the maps and headlines, the stats and speeches. Tonight, you don't need answers. Just peace. Just space to rest between stories. You've watched a nation crawl from colony to empire, wobble, rise again, and then look in the mirror and wonder, what now? That's not weakness. That's reflection. That's the sound of change at the doorstep. So now let your eyes grow heavy. Let the images of smokestacks and rocket trails melt into a quiet hum. The past is behind you, and the future, it can wait until morning. You're safe here. You've made the journey. You've seen the arc. And the world in all its wild momentum will still be there tomorrow. Sleep well, wanderer of time. Sweet dreams.